What is good, everybody? Oh my goodness, this word is solid. You're gonna wanna get ready for this one. Are you ready? Okay, so here it is. I was talking with a group of gals. We are joined because I do a virtual business mentorship. And one of the girls was sharing a particularly difficult season that she's walking through and some of the situations that she's facing that are really challenging her to show up and be vulnerable and just be able to navigate, right? Like, how do you walk through grief and show up every day? How do you walk through trauma and show up every day? How do you walk through some stuff and still smile and keep it moving, right? How do you do that? It's something that is supernatural. It's something that we don't always do well. We don't have necessarily a manual for that, right? And we don't really know, we don't have a frame of reference. So we don't know how we're going to show up a lot of the time until we're actually in it, right? So I was sharing with her this particular situation had to do with a father figure in her life. And so I shared a story about my father figure, one of them, because I have a few, but I shared an experience. I happened to be in college and I had never met my biological father. And I happened to be in a city that was nearby where he lived. And I ended up writing him a letter and letting him know. I found the address online. I wrote him a letter and I let him know that I was in that area, but I didn't have his number. And if he wanted to meet me, I left my number. And he ended up calling me and we set up a time to meet the next day, which is crazy. I'm basically at this point meeting with a total stranger. So my friends, it was during a spring break. My friend had a condo over in Sanibel Island. So we were in the middle of the spring break. It's my senior year of college. I reach out to my birth father and by sending him a letter, like what? And we end up meeting the next day. So he came to pick me up. We drove a few miles down the road. We just sat literally for hours outside of a little deli and just were talking and catching up and getting to know one another. And then we crossed the street and got ice cream and talked for a couple more hours. Literally the whole day went by. I'm surprised my friends weren't freaked out for me. And then he drove me back and was about to drop me off at the condo. And I remember looking at him and initiating kind of an opportunity to stay connected. I just let him know that, I'd really like to stay connected with you, whether that's just by email or whatever it was at the time. And he said, I have to check with my kids first, which basically I knew in my spirit that I would never hear from him again. I would never see him again. And really the only reason that he met with me is he was just curious. He didn't really want to get to know me. He didn't want to stay in touch. None of that, right? Which at this point, when I'm very much still exploring who I am, what I'm on this earth to do, how I'm going to pursue my calling, all of that, that ultimately could have crushed me, right? I could have been like, I don't know who my father is. I don't know how I'm supposed to process that. What does that even mean, right? Like, why wouldn't you want connection to your own child, right? In context, I was put up for adoption at birth because of a very interesting situation. So I have an adoptive father. This happened to be my biological father. So that was difficult to process. And, when you're trying to figure out who you are and what you're here to do in the world, that just kind of compounds that issue. But I was sharing with this sweet, dear friend that, it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity to decide, are you going to let different life events and different things that happen in life cause you to shrink and to diminish and to literally like take you out? Are you going to cause them to allow you to grow, to transform, to expand, to change, to evolve, right? So I could say, oh man, like I feel like I'm at a loss. Like I didn't grow up getting to know who this was. I don't know what traits I've inherited or how that's going to manifest in my future, I feel like I'm, not getting what I deserve. And that's really sad and really disappointing. And it's sending me a really crushing message, right? Or that's one story. Or the new story could be, well, this man served a role to bring me into the world, right? But he was never designed to have a leading role in my story. Okay. And so then taking that and deciding, who am I going to become? So if I don't need to know these other aspects of him, or if I don't need his influence in my life, how am I going to move forward and create a legacy in a life that I'm proud of and that will really ensure that I'm making choices that don't cause that kind of pain, right? So I chose to let that fuel me rather than make me a victim. And so what I was sharing and what the lesson of this message is, life events, if we let them, can really allow us to believe, if we're not careful, that things are happening to us, not for us. And it's a 2 millimeter shift difference that really makes all the difference in how you show up. So here's a way to make it practical. We are always, always, always in every area of our life moving from A to B, right? Like B is this vision, this place of expansion, this place of promise that we can see, maybe if it's just by the eyes of faith, but that alone makes it real, right? If you can see it, it can happen. So we have B. So, and even if it's you, like let's say all areas are going well in your life. Well, there's maybe a life circumstance that throws you off because of what's happening to somebody close to you or somebody dear to you, something's happening in their life. So we're always going to be kind of in a limbo. So it's really important to be able to make wise decisions. So keep this in mind. You are at A, working to get to B, and what's in the middle is a gap, obviously, right? But how do you close that gap? It's really about your beliefs, your story, and the action that you take. That's how you close that gap one day at a time and one moment at a time. So the gap to releasing whatever was connected to my past, whatever it was that I felt like I needed to resolve there, was just letting that go. Just this decision that if I needed that influence in my life, if I needed that development that this person, that leadership, that covering that that person could have provided, I would have had it, right? Is it what I wanted? No. Is it what I deserved? Absolutely not. But it's what I needed because it created me. That person help create me, but it also created character and a passion and a drive and a determination that is unmatched, right? And that nobody can take from me because that sucker's deep, right? So check that out. It really gave me a new awareness, a new perspective, a new way of showing up in the world where I'm not just nonchalant, lackadaisical, uncaring, unfeeling, or unintentional about my life. I am radically responsible, crazy intentional, super passionate, and really determined to live every day and every moment to the fullest. Do I have moments? We all do, right? But I am training constantly to check back into the place that's going to allow me to expand, to grow, to evolve, to develop, right? So that's the opportunity. So how do you do it? You really check your beliefs. Then you check what's the story that you keep telling yourself. And then you look at the action that you're taking or not, right? Because it's really progress that's going to allow you to be happy as you're getting from A to B and closing that gap. So if your story is one that's disempowering, then you're going to have beliefs, probably a whole set of beliefs, which is your belief system that's operating and telling you this story constantly that is preventing you from taking positive, fruitful, productive action. How are you going to check out the whole experience? So if you have a disempowering story, you're going to be feeling like crap. You're probably going to be procrastinating. You're going to be murmuring. You're going to be complaining. You're going to be putting things off. You're going to be comparing yourself to other people. You're going to say all the reasons why it can't happen and why you're not capable and how it's impossible. And you're going to just dig a hole for you and get stuck. And you did that, right? Now, you can also have an empowering story, which is, again, how you're assigning meaning to the process of getting from A to B. So the new story, when it's empowering, you feel energized, you feel intentional, you feel focused, you have self-control, you have discipline, you have motivation, you have determination, and you take action and you make progress and you bear fruit. And the other thing too is you get feedback. So as you get the feedback, you know how to adapt. You can be creative, you can be flexible, right? So you know that failures will happen, that mistakes will happen, but that pivot becomes easier to do, but you still keep moving forward. You're not living your life looking through a rear view mirror or analyzing everything that's behind you or everything that you didn't get or the cards that you were dealt or whatever. Like, that happened. I'm just going to let that let it die, right? Like, I'm not taking that with me. I'm taking the lessons and I'm shifting and focusing only on this direction. That's it, right? So that is the journey of getting from A to B. What is the story that you're going to tell yourself, which is a set of beliefs that you keep repeating and reinforcing? What is that story, right? And then what is the action that you take? So how you come across that is deciding who you're going to show up as. I could show up as a orphan spirit that's been neglected, abandoned, betrayed, let down, discouraged, disappointed, crushed. I could show up as that human, but how does that person show up? How do they think? How do they feel? How do they take action or not? That's a really sad story, right? Or I could be the human that I needed, or the human that I believe is possible, even though I didn't see it, and start activating character qualities of what I know inherently that takes, whether that's courage, whether that's confidence, whether that's boldness, whether it's discipline, right? Like sort of like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. Like, what is that? Grit, right? And just this knowing, right? I'm going to live by faith. I'm going to live by what I know to be true. I'm going to let my convictions lead me. I'm going to know my worth. I'm going to develop myself. If I needed others to develop me, I had it. So if I don't have that, I'm going to develop myself, right? I choose not to be limited, and I choose not to limit myself by my own beliefs, right? If I'm not being fed the things that I thought I wanted or deserved, I'm going to feed myself what I need. I'm going to feed myself empowerment. I'm going to feed myself confidence. I'm going to feed myself worth. I'm going to remember whose I am and who actually put me here. I'm going to walk like I know that and walk like I believe that and take action every day, because that matters. It matters because that's the way to guarantee that I'm showing up and living fully, and that I'm going to leave this place fully tapped out, right? And it also determines that I'm going to create a new legacy, because I can't create a new legacy just thinking about it. It's the action, right? So my encouragement to you on today, whatever the story is that you've been letting hold you back, or letting limit you, or letting keep you stuck, letting you keep your own self stuck, like whatever the story is that you've been allowing to stop you, to block you, to keep you from moving forward, to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable, drop the story and decide, who do you need to be to get to point B? Who do you need to become? What does that person think? How does that person behave? How do they show up? How do they steward what they've been given? How do they use their resources well? How do they manage their time? How do they work through challenges? How do they relate with other people? How do they build? How do they collaborate? Work that out. Work that out and watch what happens. Because here's the thing. You can continue to have more of the same. You can tell yourself stories that are lies, that are connected to your past, but you're only going to get more of the same. And you've already seen that movie before, right? And you'll probably compare yourself to other people and resent them because they actually have the courage and the bravery and the guts to take action and show up in the own arena of their life. And yes, maybe they will get beat up. Yes, maybe they will fall down sometimes, but they get back up and they still keep moving forward. Those are really the choices that you have, to either sit on the sidelines and watch other people show up, or to show up in your own life and clap for those that are showing up too, because you know what it takes. So my question to you is, are you going to shrink, Are you going to expand? Are you going to take up space? Are you going to share your voice? Are you going to speak up and help change lives and speak up for what matters to you and take action in the ways that matter to you and prioritize what matters most to you? Or are you going to shrink? Are you going to let fear take over? Are you going to let your emotions dictate your behavior? Are you going to keep repeating patterns and cycles because you were mistreated? Are you going to use that as fuel? You can literally give this energy. How can you convert it? You can give this energy to God. God can convert that into energy that you can use. But you got to be willing and you've got to do the work. It doesn't just happen. It's a decision. And then there's new beliefs. And then there's new action. Then there's momentum, one moment at a time. Then there's consistency. Then there's new life. Then you're walking that out. And it's far greater than you dare ask, think, or imagine. So you're not going to see every detail. There's going to be a lot that's uncertain. There's going to be a lot that you don't know. But you're going to become somebody greater than you ever imagined, because in the process of walking that out, you discover that there's greatness in you. You discover that you're tapping into more than you even knew was on the inside of you. And you're becoming somebody you never thought possible. And even somebody that you've never seen before. Because you're showing up. Because you're being brave. Because you're paving a new path. You got options. You always do. You always have a choice. So if you feel stuck, my reminder is you're not stuck. You have a choice. And it's a decision to make a new decision. More of the same, or make a new decision. If you were blessed by this message, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you know somebody that could use this message on today, make sure that you share it. Copy the link and share it with a friend. All right, guys, until next time, talk to you soon. Stay blessed.